So Charlie, generally speaking, I know that there's probably a million variables that go into this.
Yeah.
But what's the timeline of a sale? How long does it take to go from the decision of I want to sell my home to closing? What's that look like?
Wow, that's a great question. So the entire timeline is wildly dependent on how much work you really want to do to the house. That's probably the biggest variable.
That's fair. And yeah.
And
there's a lot of variables there to make you answer that question. So for the sake of this discussion, let's say it just needs some light paint work.
Stuff, yeah.
House is in great condition.
Yeah. I think that from my perspective, if you want to do really good marketing, that takes time. I think there needs to be a month at least between you signing the listing agreement and that listing going fully active on the Smart MLS. Now, there's some other things we can do. Within the rules of the state, obviously, we have to work within some boundaries, but we could potentially pre-market that home within the brokerage itself and make it available to try and get it sold before we even have to go fully active, if that's of value to the seller, where they don't want all the showings, if we can still get them a good price for it and not have all the
sell without the headache.
Sell without the headaches, yeah. So potentially we're doing something like that in that period, but we're also building all of the marketing out, all the videos, all of the social media ads, all the postcards, and whatever is going into that particular marketing plan for that home is all getting done before the house is listed. So I really think a month. Can you rush it? You can, but I think you have to make some sacrifices. You're choosing speed over quality basically in those scenarios. So that would really be the tightest realistic timeline. Sign it and then let's call it a month later, full on active from my perspective. But for most people, that process of getting the home ready is several months of time. And like I said before, that it could be pre-marketed during that stage, which could be an advantage for some sellers. That's a choice that the seller makes. And then when you hit the market, right now that's really dependent on the time of year, how long it takes before you typically have an accepted offer. In Greenwich right now, I think you can call that 30 days before the typical home gets a buyer. Some are faster, some are a little bit longer, and then probably a 60-day closing period. So you're probably talking about 3 months before closing from when the house hits the full market.
Yeah.
We're not partially marketing or marketing inside the brokerage or whatever.
Publicly available
everywhere. To all buyers.
Yeah.
To when it closes, you're probably looking at about a 3-month time frame on average, on typical.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course. And I noticed you mentioned something. So some people would opt in to pre-list it, so essentially off market. If someone were to go that route, they're obviously missing out on that first week surge we've been talking about. Does that impact the final sale price? Like, would you recommend that some of your sellers hold off and go live?
Yeah, that's a great question, and one I have been asked many times. So I'm glad you asked that. The idea of the pre-marketing is it's without taking the time to, which I think would bore everybody, to understand the inner workings of our business. That's just really a time where we can sort of manually market the home here in Connecticut. Anyway, this is how it works, where we're going out and sort of almost one-on-one delivering it. I'm bumping into you at a meeting or a showing or something like that, and I'm just letting you know that I've got this listing or these listings are available, not ready on market yet, but if you have buyers, let me know, type thing. That's how that particular property has to get marketed in our state.
One-to-one conversations,
one-one emails, sort of that almost old school type, get out there and get this property out there. The great thing, what I love about that particular approach is it's relatively low showing volume, but high intent on the buyer's part.
Interesting.
So you could get really high quality buyers in that process. And essentially, a lot of sellers don't really who wants to deal with the showings?
Yeah.
Who wants to deal with, going to the coffee shop for an hour or something, and then only to come back later to work for an hour to then have to run back out.
Yeah.
No one wants that.
Yeah.
So this is a scenario where you can have less of that. You can have perhaps less work, even the staging and all that done to the house.
Yeah.
So you save yourself a lot of the work
The
and
headache
energy and
of
effort
listing your house.
if it works. Yeah,
if
too.
it
I mean,
works.
I think most sellers, to be fair, most sellers should be seeing that as it's an opportunity.
Yeah.
Before you're full on marketing, and it could be as long as you want it to be. It could be 6 months, and if you get the right buyer in that 6 months, and so you're maybe doing it from October to sometime in the spring, and then fully listing in the spring. And the great thing there is you don't accumulate any days on market, which is a huge has a huge effect on the value you can get on the home the longer you're on the market, right?
Buyers perceive that there's an issue with that.
Exactly.
It's been on for, I mean, in this market, 30 plus days, people might be like, ooh.
Yep. It gives us opportunity to get feedback from the buyers and hear like firsthand, what are they seeing it? You know, we think we know what they're going to see, but you know, there's sometimes we see something, especially, you know, my job is to sell the house for most money. I probably have a very positive spin on that house in my mind. I'm getting maybe a more balanced view from from the buyers as they come through to sort of dial in.
Yeah.
And if we did that in a pre-marketing, we'd already have that information before we even went active. So we could even make adjustments potentially to some things to address maybe certain concerns that the buyers are having.